Welcome to a place where family isn't always what it seems, and love can hide the deepest betrayals. Here, every story pulls you into a world where sacrifice is expected, loyalty is tested, and silence speaks louder than truth. You'll uncover twisted family dynamics, shocking secrets, and the kind of emotional betrayals that cut deeper than anything else, especially when the one person who should stand beside you chooses to stand against you. These are stories of stolen homes, broken trust, and quiet revenge that builds until it can't be ignored anymore. If you've ever wondered what really happens behind closed doors when control, manipulation, and hidden motives take over, you're in the right place. Get ready for stories that don't just tell the truth, they expose it. The penthouse was never just property. It was proof that years of sacrifice had meant something. Late nights, missed chances, quiet endurance, all poured into those walls. And yet, one dinner changed everything. Smiles too tight, voices too rehearsed. A sister's tears took center stage, painting a story of struggle, of unfairness, of needing just one chance. The family agreed too quickly, papers appeared faster than questions. A husband sat there, silent, eyes lowered, as if none of it had anything to do with him. Pressure didn't come loudly. It came in soft guilt, in disappointed looks, in words like, "family comes first." Resistance was treated like betrayal. Within days, signatures replaced ownership. The penthouse, gone. Handed over like it was always meant for someone else. But something felt wrong, not just the loss, but the ease of it, the way a husband avoided eye contact, the way a sister suddenly seemed too comfortable, too prepared. It wasn't desperation, it was expectation. Then the stranger arrived. No warning, no invitation, just a knock on the door that changed everything. Calm voice, steady hands, and documents no one else was supposed to see. Records, transactions, dates that didn't match the story told at that dinner table. The penthouse had been discussed long before the emergency. Plans had been made. Even worse, conversations involving a husband, quietly agreeing, quietly arranging, ensuring compliance without confrontation. Silence suddenly made sense. Every moment replayed itself differently. The hesitation, the distance, the lack of defense. It wasn't weakness, it was complicity. The room filled with denial first. Anger followed. Accusations flew, but truth has a way of standing still while everything else falls apart. The stranger didn't argue, just laid everything out piece by piece until no lie could survive. And in that moment, something shifted. Not heartbreak, something colder, clearer. The same family that demanded sacrifice now stood exposed. The same husband who offered nothing but silence now had nowhere to hide. Nothing was taken back. That wasn't the point anymore. Because losing the penthouse wasn't the betrayal. Trusting them was. Loyalty was never a choice in this family. It was an expectation, enforced in subtle ways that left no room for refusal. Every sacrifice was framed as love, every compromise as duty. Over time, it became second nature to give in, to stay quiet, to believe that keeping peace meant holding everything together. But peace was never the goal. Control was. It started with small things, decisions made without asking, boundaries crossed and brushed off with laughter. Then it grew into something heavier. Financial choices, living arrangements, responsibilities shifted without consent, all wrapped in the same familiar phrase, "This is what family does." Saying no was never really an option, not when disappointment carried more weight than truth. Through it all, a husband stood nearby, watching, listening, always present, yet somehow absent when it mattered most. No objections, no defense, just silence that slowly began to feel louder than any argument. At first, that silence felt like helplessness. Maybe pressure affected him too. Maybe he didn't know how to push back. That's what was believed, what had to be believed, because anything else would have been too painful to face. But resentment has a way of sharpening awareness. There were moments that didn't sit right, conversations that stopped when entering the room, glances exchanged too quickly, decisions announced that a husband already seemed to know about. It wasn't just silence, it was awareness, participation without accountability. The truth didn't arrive all at once. It came in fragments, a misplaced phone left unlocked, messages not meant to be seen, words that stripped away every excuse that had once protected him. Plans had been discussed long before they were presented, strategies built around compliance, around knowing exactly how far things could be pushed without breaking anything completely. And at the center of it all was the one person who was supposed to stand beside, not behind. Every sacrifice suddenly looked different. Every moment of silence felt deliberate. The family demanded loyalty, but never gave it. And the man who promised partnership had already chosen a side long ago. The confrontation didn't need to be loud. Truth has a way of speaking for itself when it's undeniable. No more explanations, no more justifications, just clarity. Because in the end, it wasn't their betrayal that destroyed everything. It was his silence that made it unforgivable. The penthouse was supposed to be the beginning of something stable, something earned after years of holding everything together while everyone else took more than they gave. Every corner carried proof of effort, of patience, of choosing family even when it meant losing pieces of self along the way. Then it was gone. Not stolen in the way strangers take things, but handed over under pressure, disguised as love. A sister's sudden crisis, parents insisting it was temporary, voices layered with urgency and guilt until refusal felt impossible. Papers were signed with hands that didn't feel like they belonged anymore. A husband stood close enough to reach, yet completely out of reach. No protest, no hesitation, just quiet agreement that blended into the rest of the room like it was natural. That was the moment something shifted, but not enough to fully see it yet. The unraveling came slowly, like threads loosening one by one until the whole truth could no longer hold together. It started with a visit to the penthouse days later, expecting awkward gratitude, maybe even discomfort. Instead, there was laughter, ease, furniture already rearranged like it had always belonged there. That's when suspicion turned into something sharper. Questions led nowhere at first. Answers were too quick, too clean. But patterns don't lie. A husband had been distant long before that night. Calls taken in other rooms, conversations cut short. There had always been something just out of sight. Until it wasn't. An old email surfaced by accident, left open, forgotten. Then another. Threads of communication stretching back months, plans carefully laid out, discussions about timing, about convincing, about how to make it all seem necessary. And right there, woven into every message, was the one person who should have been protecting, not plotting. Every sacrifice replayed itself in a new light, every compromise revealed as something calculated. The penthouse wasn't the beginning of the betrayal, it was just the part that couldn't be hidden anymore. Confrontation didn't come with shouting, it came with evidence laid out calmly, piece by piece, until denial collapsed under its own weight. The room that once felt like home turned into something colder, smaller. No apologies were enough, no explanations made sense, because the truth was simple in the end. The home was never what was stolen. Trust was, and he gave it away long before anyone else could take it. It didn't break all at once. That would have been easier to understand. Instead, it came apart slowly, like something rotting beneath the surface while everything on top still looked intact. At first, it was just a feeling, a quiet sense that something wasn't right. Conversations that felt rehearsed, smiles that didn't reach the eyes, A family that suddenly moved in perfect agreement, as if decisions had already been made long before they were spoken out loud. And in the middle of it all, a husband, calm and composed, watching everything unfold like it had nothing to do with him. The pressure built gradually. Requests turned into expectations. Expectations turned into obligations. Giving in became the only way to avoid conflict, the only way to keep the illusion of peace alive. Each compromise felt temporary, manageable, until it wasn't. The penthouse became the final demand, framed as necessary, urgent, unavoidable. A sister's need was positioned above everything else. Refusal was met with silence first, then disappointment, then quiet emotional distance that made standing firm feel unbearable. And through it all, not a single word of resistance from the one person who should have stood beside, not behind. That silence lingered long after the papers were signed. It echoed in every empty room, in every moment that used to feel secure. But silence has weight, and eventually it begins to crack under the pressure of truth. The first fracture came from something small, a message notification dismissed too quickly. Then another. Patterns formed where there shouldn't have been any. Curiosity turned into something sharper, something unavoidable. What surfaced wasn't just betrayal, it was planning. Conversations stretched back months, discussions about timing, about how to present things, about how to ensure there would be no resistance. Words exchanged between family members that didn't include everyone, but included him. Every moment of quiet suddenly felt intentional. Every lack of defense, deliberate. It wasn't that he didn't speak. It was that he had already spoken, just never where it mattered. The realization didn't explode. It settled in slowly, cold and undeniable. All the trust placed so carefully over time unraveled in an instant, leaving behind something unrecognizable. When confronted, there were no real answers, just fragments of excuses that couldn't hold against the weight of what had already been uncovered. Because the truth didn't need interpretation anymore. The deepest wound wasn't what the family took. It was knowing he helped them take it. If this story pulled you in and left you questioning everything, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay connected, because here, every story reveals another layer of truth, another betrayal waiting to be uncovered. Don't miss what comes next. Some secrets are just getting started.